What's up, party people, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alexis. In this video, I'm going to be doing another look from the Stone Cold Fox palette from Colourpop. I used this in my last video, and I did two looks, one palette on it, and I absolutely adore this palette. So I thought, why the hell not play with it again and do something really, like, because it's all grays and taupes and that sort of thing, do something like really grungy and gnarly looking. Well, not gnarly looking because I still want to look pretty, but you know what I mean. Do something a little grungy. So I'll be going back into my Stone Cold Fox palette again and creating a grungy, gray, smoky, black, brown kind of eye look. So if you're interested in seeing me play with the Stone Cold Fox palette again, then keep watching. Okay, so because I think this is like officially dead. Like I hit pan, which is awesome. I hit the bottom of it, but it's all dried and like kind of coming off from the sides and stuff like that at the bottom. So I figure it's time to retire. It's time to retire the MAC paint pot. So I'm actually going to be going in with another paint pot, but this time I actually got it in soft ochre. See, it's quite a bit lighter, but it's definitely much, like, I feel like the paint pot Painterly is definitely is almost like my summer color, but you're putting eyeshadow on top of it, so it doesn't really matter. If I were using it, like, I don't know, I'm gonna recycle that actually. I think, yeah, it's glass. You can recycle glass. Yeah, so I'm gonna start with my paint pot. Also, I got fairy lights for mine and my husband's wedding anniversary earlier this year to hang up on our chuppah. And I have had them in a box for ages, and I keep, I'm like, Panda, we need to put these up. We need to put these up. I really want something in my background that's not just black, that's not just some empty void behind me. And so last night I was like, can you help me put them up? Because I genuinely, I want to have lights in my background because I feel like it would add a little oomph to my setup. And so last night at like 11 o'clock, I grabbed my husband and I said, can you hang them up for me? So because my back is so fried, I can't actually, like, I did such a janky job at hanging up my bit of fabric because I just couldn't stand long enough with my hands over my head. And so I had my husband fix that last night as well. So it's much more secure. Oh, see, that just cancels out and looks just like my skin tone. So that's actually the right color for me. I feel like Painterly might be a bit dark, but that's pretty cool. And the reason I like paint pots so much is because they don't slip. Like they're like a concealer, but it actually dries down to kind of like a powder finish, and it just makes it for a really easy base for your makeup to go on top of. So I like paint pots a lot. All right, so I think I'm gonna go in with, to do as a transition shade, I think I'm gonna go in with bold type. Yeah, bold type, which is this color here. Oh, and this is what the palette looks like if you haven't seen it yet. It is stunning, and the shadows perform so well, and the shimmers in here are just to die for. So I'm gonna go in with bold type, and I'm just dragging that in the crease. There is a little bit of kick up in the pan. I am using a Colourpop brush with Colourpop shadows, which I'm assuming is the like ideal way to, that they would want you, is to use their brushes, obviously. And I'm just taking that in the crease and being kind of haphazard with it. I'm not trying to do like a beautiful fade or anything like that. I'm just kind of placing it in my crease. So what have you guys been up to lately? I have been watching Chernobyl over and over and over again, over and over and over again. I know it came out in like 2018 or 2019, which seems like forever and a day ago. Let's be honest. Yeah, I've been watching it nonstop, and what's really cool about it is my mother-in-law has a doctorate in nuclear physics, worked with everything with Chernobyl. She was working in the field at the time. And so to get to sit there and listen to her talk about why this happened, why that happened, what they could have done to change this, what they screwed up on, and that sort of thing. And like, if I had questions, she was like, she'd answer them straight away. And it was just, it's such a good show. And for whatever reason, I cannot put it down. Can't put it down. The next shade I'm going to go in with is I'm going to go in with Obsidian, which, having a hard time with this one today, is Obsidian, which is this color here. And I'm just going to run that a little deeper in the crease. I could have used the same brush actually, but we'll just continue from here. And I'm kind of tucking that a bit lower and bringing that down onto my mobile lid. So Chernobyl is a fantastic miniseries. It's 5 episodes long. It's got a huge star-studded cast of all these brilliant British and European or Scandinavian actors and actresses. Skillian Skarsgård, I'm butchering that, and Evelina's probably going to come in here and be like, you could have just asked me how to pronounce it. So I'm going to pronounce it like they pronounce it in America, Skarsgård, because I don't like Skarsgård because the A with the O over the top is an O sound. I know it's pronounced, and I'm almost certain that the R is rolled, so Skarsgård, but I could be like really wrong. So Evelina, if you're watching this, correct me. I'm sorry, and I'm sure I'm going to talk to you about it tonight because reasons. So I want to make that a little deeper, so I'm gonna go in with, I think I want to go in with Drama Mama, which is this shade here, the one right next to it. I don't know why I cannot hold this fucking palette today. Holy crap on a cracker. There we go. As Penny would say from Big Bang Theory. And I'm gonna take this even farther onto my lid, and I'm really just kind of taking my time and making sure that the blend is how I want it. It's not hard to work with these shadows, so it's not like I'm having to sit here for hours on end and blend. But yeah, so Chernobyl is absolutely amazing. If you haven't seen it, I cannot recommend it highly enough. The acting is top notch. It's absolutely fantastic. It's told almost from the viewpoint of Valery, oh god, why have I forgotten his name? I'm going to pull it up on IMDb. Valery Logosov. And it's basically told from the standpoint of his recorded tapes that he recorded before he committed suicide. And basically, like, he goes in and he spills the beans on all of it. And he's, like, not worried about what the KGB is going to say. He's not worried about what his contemporaries are going to say. He just goes in and tells the truth like it happened. And it was just watching it from that standpoint of watching from what happened with Anatoly Dyatlov, which was the I don't know what he would be considered. He would be he's like the supervisor of the thing. Wow, I sound intelligent. Okay, I'm gonna take Rock Bottom, which is this black shade here, and I'm just gonna put that on my lid and kind of like whoop, and kind of bring it up a bit higher. And I'm using an E2 from ColourPop, and so it's basically where he is, you know, condemning the actions of the administration of Chernobyl, and so it's you know, he gives damning evidence as to what happened, how it was handled by the KGB, how it was handled by the physics community or the nuclear power community. And so he, you know, basically spills it and just tells all of the stories about what had happened. What had happened was he, you know, really went in and explained like what exactly happened, how the mismanagement of the power plant really almost killed millions of people, and would have had like worldwide ramifications. Okay, so I'm going to go back into Drama Mama. No, Obsidian. And I'm just going to bring that higher because I didn't bring it up high enough on this eye. And I'm just kind of blending that black as well. And so basically what happened was they were at Chernobyl, the head of Chernobyl, defense minister almost. Which one did I just go into? Shit. All right. I think I went into Obsidian, Drama Mama. So basically what happened is they had to run this safety test, and they had tried and failed 3 times before. And it was the end of the year. They wanted to get their quota, basically. They wanted to get, there was a potential for promotions, and, you know, because of the way the country was run at the time, the USSR was run at the time, you basically had to coattail and ride, you know, ride the coattails of the previous person, or the person ahead of you, and then that's how you got into your next position. Like, you were promoted from that way. Let me see, what was his name again? Viktor Buryukhanov. I'm butchering that again. He was basically like saying that he wanted to get this done. It was almost, it almost was like he was waiting for a bonus check to come in, kind of thing. And so, there's no fallout, by the way. No fallout at all that I can see. None. And so basically they were trying to get this test done, and they were told that they needed to bring the reactor down to a certain level. They were at 1600 megawatts, and then they needed to bring it down to 700 megawatts. But the problem is they had left it at 700 megawatts for too long, and there was this buildup of this compound or gas called xenon, and it's like a byproduct of the nuclear reactor running low. And so usually there's this checks and balance that's explained in the series, and it's like Valeria explained in the show, that it was a very beautiful, you know, checks and balances kind of thing. But the problem is the balance was thrown out because they had dropped it down to 700 megawatts, and they had dropped it down for 10 hours, I believe, because they were trying to get this thing done, rather than bringing it down slowly over the course of a couple of days, which is what's recommended. They wanted to get it done, so they were going to do it regardless. And basically what happened is there was this, basically like an oh shit button, called AZ5. And what it was supposed to do was shut down the core and immediately stop, the reactions. It would stop the nuclear reactor. And so, what had happened was the power dipped down to like 200, and they couldn't bring it back up. And then, because everything was still running, it ended up causing, after a while, the xenon had built up so much, and the pressure had built up so much, and the steam had built up so much, that there was a power spike, and it just surged. And so, you know, because that was happening, the personnel hit the AZ5 button. The problem with that is graphite tipped boron tubes that would go in, and basically what they do, so the graphite, my husband explained it to me, the graphite basically is, like, if you think about, basically what it does is, if you think of a pool table, right, and you have all these balls just bouncing all over the place, right? Well, basically what you need to do is you need to make it kind of like a slick surface. So imagine putting an ice down on the pool table. So you've got all these balls going over, you know, they're not slowing down, but they're not, you know, you have to get them to collide in order to break apart and create the atomic energy. So you're using uranium 235 or 253, 256? Shit, I can't remember now. I knew this was going to happen the second I started talking about it. I knew I needed to take notes. And so basically you think of a pool table, and then you just put ice down on the pool table. And so if you do that, then the atoms and the uranium atoms are going to start sliding all over the table very quickly. And so basically it speeds up and makes them collide, or it slows them down enough that they can collide with each other. But it also keeps it like a slick area, if that makes any sense at all. I think I'm going to actually have my mother-in-law come on, and I'm going to do her makeup, and I'm going to get her to explain what happened in Chernobyl. But basically what happened was the graphite actually increased the reactivity, and what happened was they were trying to get the boron cylinders to go in, because boron actually slows down the reaction. The problem is the graphite. the graphite sped him up. So as they had this power surge and they had this xenon buildup, and it wasn't being burnt off in the process of the reactions happening, it was just building up, building up, building up, and then what ended up happening was it went from, you know, being down in the 200s where it was like stuck and they were trying to pull out control rods and trying to get the reactions to happen again to burn off the xenon and all that. And so what ended up happening is they just created this huge surge of power which superheated what was left of the cooling water in the tower, and it superheated it super quickly and it exploded. And the graphite again caused that reaction to go faster. The boron, once the graphite hit the nuclear reactor and went back into the cylinder or the tank or whatever you want to call it, at that point, that's when shit just went off. And so that's when the nuclear reaction actually happened, and that's when the plant exploded. Yeah, so basically, and then what happened afterwards was this guy named Dyatlov, his surname is Dyatlov, he was like basically denying that there had been a core rupture. He would, you know, he was like berating his workers, his subordinates, and, you know, basically saying, what have you done? What did you do? You know, you didn't follow my instructions. You didn't listen to what I was telling you to do. And another thing to note is that the operators were the night shift, inexperienced. One of the operators, you know, two of the operators had never done this procedure before and had no idea what they were doing. There were questions regarding, you know, the safety and the protocol for performing this procedure or this test, and they were given like this intimidating asshole of a man. You know, is they're following, you know, his instructions. They're trying to do this the right way. They're trying to follow procedures. But this guy is like berating them, calling them, you know, old women, and really being demeaning and shitty. And then this reaction happened. And Dyatlov actually was sitting there talking to, like, he had people running into the control room saying that the core had exploded. And he still was like, no. It must have been the hydrogen tank. You guys, you know, first off, they stalled his reactor when it had dropped down to 200 megawatts. And then, you know, it was their fault. They had done it all. And he was just there supervising, you know. And so when the reactor blew, all this graphite and debris went everywhere. And the graphite is highly irradiated, as was all the area around. So they ended up calling this board of directors, basically, the heads of Pripyat, which is where the Chernobyl reactor is. And so it's just, this Dyatlov guy was just a monster. Like, he refused to take accountability for what happened. It was always somebody else's fault. You know, he was acting on the orders of this guy and, you know, following his instructions and like no responsibility taken for the whole situation at all. Just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And so the show goes on to talk about how the USSR basically was handling, because this is before the USSR dissembled, I don't think that's the right word, but was dissolved, and they became part of Russia again. And so it's, you know, they talk about, you know, how certain people were given certain information and others were given other information, and that there was just a lot of misinformation going around. And they call in Valery Logozov because he's one of the, he's a professor, and he's a director of a nuclear institute, and he's supposed to know quite a bit about this type of reactor, RBMK reactor, which is the type of reactor that this was. And so they call him in to kind of help out, and he, you know, basically kind of from just reading the notes about what had happened, he basically kind of worked out that the reactor had exploded, and the fact that they were saying that what is it called? I feel like I'm doing such a bad job at explaining this. I really do need to have my mother-in-law to come on here. But so they, I'm going in with rock bottom again. So he is brought in to brief these politicians and directors of these different programs. And he's, reading the paperwork, and then he realizes that it's not just a hydrogen tank that is exploded, which is what's being reported to all these higher-ups. It's actually the fact that the core is open. The core is melting down. The core is, it's fucked. And he's like, this is going to affect millions of people. And so they basically were like, oh, it's no big deal. We're told that it was just a hydrogen tank that exploded, and that, they're running water through the core and everything's A-okay. And Logozov, the guy that's that understands and works with these types of RBMK reactors, was like, no, you guys don't understand. The smooth metal or the smooth rock that these guys are talking about in these reports is actually graphite. So the only way that graphite would be found on anywhere around Chernobyl would be if the reactor was open. And so they end up going to the facility, and Boris Sherbina was a director of power, and so he was actually, supposed to be like not as I guess, involved and have such a big impact on what had happened. But he and Valery Logozov worked very closely together, and they actually were the two men that were the most influential and most needed. I don't know if that's it's not the right word. That's not the word I'm looking for. But they were the most important men when it came to what was happening after the core had erupted. Logozov was telling them, I should call him Professor Logozov, but he was instrumental in saving so many people's lives. And then you also have this character of Yolana Komyuk, and she is a character that is basically an amalgamation of all these different physicists, and that had come in to help Professor Logozov and director Sherbina. And they would go around and do interviews with the people, because they were basically tasked with trying to figure out what happened. Because nobody could work out how an RBMK reactor could explode. It was just so far out of the realm of anything of being, a possibility. And so they tasked this group of physicists. I'm going to go in with the color, I'm going to go in with Lux, which is this bone shade, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to use that under my brow bone, and I'm kind of going to blend out this gray at the top. And so they would go around and do interviews of the guys that were still alive, and basically get like first reaction accountability and that sort of thing, so that they could understand what happened with the RBMK and how the hell it happened. And so, they're trying to do this in Soviet Russia, where there are, or the USSR, I should say, and everything is very, a very deeply guarded secret, and you could only have access to certain information if you had like the right paperwork, or you had like people felt that you needed that information. And so, yeah, it's so in depth, and it actually like shows what happens to a person that is inundated with radioactive material. And it's a really amazing show. I cannot, I'm not spoiling anything for anybody. If you wanted to, you could go and do your own research on Chernobyl and find out about the RBMK reactors and what happened. And so it's not like it's a well-guarded secret or anything like that. And so I'm not spoiling anything for anyone. But if you have the opportunity to watch it, I cannot recommend it highly enough. Like I said, I've watched it 4 times. 4 or 5 times since I bought it. And my husband and I bought it, like a week ago maybe. And it's 5 episodes long. It's not a big long series. They're about an hour long. So it's not like a huge time investment. You can watch it over a weekend. I guarantee you will binge it. It is just that good. And, it swept the award shows. It got so many awards for like acting and effects and stuff like that. And it's so good. I cannot recommend it highly enough. But yeah, if you're bored one weekend and you've got HBO or you've got access to find it online, or you want to go and buy it yourself, you will not be disappointed. And what's really great is they explain it in a way that even somebody like me, who has very limited knowledge on a lot of things, can understand. And it's so amazing. And it's tragic. It is so tragic. The loss of life, because of the sheer ignorance and I don't want to say willfulness, because that's not quite the right word, but the lack of responsibility taken by 3 men that caused this whole thing to happen. And the operators in the control room were like, we did this. They were blaming themselves. And, the sacrifice that these firefighters and first responders made, and the doctors made, and the people at the plant that were like running around on Dyatlov's, instruction, basically saying, we need to get water back in my reactor core, and, what have you done to my reactor? And, just not taking any responsibility whatsoever for his own actions. And it just, the guy that plays Dyatlov, I just want to smash in the face. Like, if I ever saw him on the street, I would like have a hard time separating him from the character, because he played it so well. So well. You hate this man. And so, he was, a taskmaster. He was really demeaning. He, always wanted to be the smartest man in the room. He was a ladder climber. And, he was in it for himself. He was totally in the whole thing for himself. And it just, he just couldn't fathom that his actions caused this whole thing. And even in the end, he was still denying, like, when, in the show, when they had Ulana Kumyuk go and visit him in the hospital to get his first person accounts, he's like, I don't even know that the reactor blew up. And she's like, shows him a picture, and then he just kind of blows her off. He blows her off one time, he blows her off a second time. He refused to take any accountability for what had happened, because he knew if he did, that because he had caused, with his ignorance, so much to the people of Pripyat and the surrounding areas, in Kiev and Minsk and all that, he just refused to take responsibility for it, because he was scared he was going to get shot, which he should have been, in my opinion. He got 10 years in a labor camp for what happened. And there are still, like, you can't even go to Pripyat anymore, or Chernobyl, which is Pripyat in the area surrounding the nuclear plant. And they still, like, even after everything had happened, even after the explosion and whatnot, the reactors, there were 3 reactors at Chernobyl, and 4, and Chernobyl, they blew up reactor number 4, and so they still had 3 other nuclear reactors going, and so they had all these, personnel that were there that were being exposed to all this. And the most disgusting part about it is that Russia to this day says that there were only 31 people that died as a result of being at Chernobyl. They don't take into account the people that have died of cancer. You know, they don't count a lot of things that they should. And so I'm gonna go in with Stargaze from the Moon Prism palette, which is this one here in the middle. And so it's really interesting to find out that even after all these years, Russia still denies the impact that Chernobyl had to Russia and the surrounding areas. I mean, hell, they didn't even like report it to any of the countries that were around them because they didn't want to be seen as being irresponsible or anything like that. And so, yeah, they're still so secretive about the whole thing. But Professor Logozov, you know, or director, I'm sorry, like came in and just blew the lid off of everything, and it sent shock waves through the nuclear physics community. And he ended up taking his own life because he just couldn't live with the fact that, one, he was going to die a very terrible and painful death due to being as active in that area as he was when the reactor blew, you know. And it's just insane. It's absolutely mind-boggling. I'm gonna go in with my ColourPop liner in Oh Snap. It's this really pretty, it's a pretty pale pink. You can barely tell it's on my lips. I love that. I'm gonna use Honey Nude again because this is just the perfect nude. I love this color. It's from Flower Beauty. And I think I kind of want a highlighter, but at the same time I kind of don't, because I kind of like how grungy and just this look is. I like how matte and grungy it is. I didn't even do an inner corner highlight because I didn't feel like I needed it. But, yeah, that's basically, this is the look. I really love this eye look. This brings me back to high school, to be perfectly honest, like where you had the grungy, you know, granted this is a little more, it's a little less messy and it's much more smooth and that sort of thing. But I love grungy looks on me. But I'm also a grunge kid at heart. Grew up in the 90s, well, grew up in the 80s and was in my teenage years in the 90s. And so, you know, the grunge era was strong with me and I never kind of got out of that. I love grunge. Yeah, so I really like this look. Again, it's a little more of a prettier version of what I kind of grew up doing when I didn't have the supervision of my family. But yeah, so basically, if you haven't seen Chernobyl, fucking watch it. Oh my god, you will not regret it. If you haven't picked up the Stone Cold Fox palette, what are you waiting for? Do it. It's a great palette, and like you can see, it's versatile. In my last video, I did a very I kept saying demure in the video, and as I was editing, I'm like, okay, I really need to put like a drink, like a shot counter, so every time I say demure, you have to take a shot. But yeah, so I did this really pretty soft look that was very like just kind of slap it on and go, very easy, I don't want to call it glam, but easy daytime look. And then I did more of a dramatic nighttime look. And, you know, so this is a versatile palette, and I really like it a lot. I can't recommend this highly enough. So basically, that's the end of the video. If you haven't watched Chernobyl, do it. If you haven't picked up Stone Cold Fox palette, do it. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you know every time I upload a new video, and I'll see you soon. Bye.